I demand that you leave this instant. You are trespassing and I will have you arrested.
Oh, look, she's pulling out the papers again.
I was watching the game in my garage with 5 friends when I saw the lights, red and blue flashing through the gap under the door. Not one patrol car, 4. 8 officers, doors opening. My neighbor had called 911. Again, 5th time in 6 weeks. This time she told dispatch she heard gunshots and saw gang members at my house. Gunshots. Gang members. We were eating nachos. And watching football, the lead officer walked up looking ready for a fight. Then he saw my friend and froze. Jake? Jake stepped forward in his old police academy t-shirt. Morrison, West District. Bye. What's going on? The officer's posture shifted. His eyes moved from Jake to the others. I'm Detective Mike. Torres, Robbery Division. Sergeant Sean Donnelly. 15 years on the force. It clicked. The drug dealers the neighbor kept reporting. All cops. Off duty. Playing poker with a $40 pot? She'd called 911 5 times. Claimed drugs, domestic violence, an active shooter. Every single call was a lie, so we pressed. Charges the DA hit her with 5 counts of filing false police reports. In court, when the judge asked why she did it, she said, I just wanted them to stop having gatherings. The judge stared at her and said, emergency services are not your weapon. 60 days in jail, suspended, 2 years probation. $2,500 in fines. She sold her house and moved 2 states away within a month. But let me start from the beginning. Before we dive into, I'd love to know where you're listening from today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more interesting stories. Just like this, I've owned my house for 8 years. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, quarter-acre lot, in a quiet HOA neighborhood. Nothing fancy. It's just a place I could afford and actually wanted to come home to. The garage is where everything happens. 5 years ago, I started keeping the door open. On weekends, threw in some folding chairs, a small TV mounted on the wall, a cooler, and a portable grill on the driveway. It became the hangout spot without me really planning it that way. My core group is 6 guys. We rotate who shows up, but it's usually 4 or 5 of us on any given Saturday. We play poker, watch football, grill burgers, drink beer. Nothing wild, no parties, no loud music past quiet hours. Just guys in our 30s hanging out like we've done since college. Here's the thing, though. All of them are cops. It started with Jake, my college roommate. He joined the police academy 10 years ago, worked his way up to patrol officer. Good guy. The kind who actually cares about the job. A few years back, he started bringing other guys from the department, like a detective, Sean, a sergeant with 15 years on the force, a couple patrol officers, a canine handler, they're off duty. When they come over, civilian clothes, no badges visible. It's just regular guys who happen to carry guns for a living, spend their weekdays dealing with the worst parts of the city. The gatherings are tame. We start around 5 or 6 on Saturdays, grill some food, play a few hands of poker $5 buy-in, nothing serious, watch whatever game's on. By 10 p.m., everyone's gone. We're not 20 anymore. Most of these guys work early shifts. The neighbors never cared. The couple across the street would wave, sometimes grab a burger. The old guy, 2 doors down, loved talking to Sean about his military days. It's normal neighborhood stuff. Then, 3 months ago, the house next door sold. I saw the moving truck pull up on a Saturday morning. Single woman, looked to be in her 50s. Designer sunglasses, giving very specific instructions to the movers. I walked over, introduced myself. Welcomed her to the neighborhood. She looked at me like I was interrupting something important. Thank you, she said, clipped and cold, then turned back to the movers. Her name was Patricia. Okay, not everyone's friendly on moving day. I got it. That first week was quiet, didn't see her much, didn't hear her. Then came the first Saturday after she moved in. Jake, Mike, and 3 other guys were over. We had the garage door open, chairs set up, grill going. I was flipping burgers. Mike was dealing cards. Someone had a Bluetooth speaker playing classic rock volume low, barely audible from the street. It was 6 p.m., still daylight, quiet. A sharp knock on my front door. I walked around from the garage, spatula still in my hand. Opened the door. Patricia stood there, arms crossed, face tight. "Hi," I said. "Patricia, right? Everything okay?" "This needs to stop," she said. "No hello. No small talk. Straight to the point." My stomach tightened. "I'm sorry this." She gestured toward my garage. "The gathering. The noise. It's disruptive." I looked back at my driveway. 5 guys sitting in lawn chairs. One eating a burger. Music was so low I could barely hear it from where I stood. "We're just having a few friends over," I said, keeping my voice even. "It's not loud. We'll be done by. I don't care. I didn't buy a house to live next to a frat house." A frat house. I was 34 years old. Grilling hamburgers at 6 p.m. on my own property, heat crept up my neck. "It's just a casual hangout. We do this most Saturdays. Keep the volume down. Everyone's gone by 10. That's when quiet hours start. Every weekend." Her voice went up slightly. "Most weekends, yeah." Her mouth tightened into a thin line. "That's unacceptable. I expect peace and quiet. That's what I paid for." My jaw clenched. I forced myself to stay calm. "I've lived here 8 years. Never had a complaint. We follow all the HOA rules. Quiet hours are 10 p.m. We're always done. Before then, well, I'm complaining now. It's disruptive. It needs to stop. With all due respect, we're not breaking any rules. We're on my property. We're quiet, and I expect this to end. She'll cut me off, or I'll take it to the HOA board." She turned and walked back to her house before I could respond. Slammed her door hard enough that the frame rattled. I stood there for a second, spatula in hand, pulse pounding in my ears. From fear, from anger, and something else's belief that this was actually happening, Jake appeared behind me. "Everything okay, new neighbor?" "Says we're too loud." He glanced at the garage. "We're literally whispering compared to most weekends. In this neighborhood, the guy down the street mows his lawn at 7 a.m. on Sundays." "I know." We went back to the garage. I flipped the burgers, tried to shake it off, but the whole vibe had shifted. Nobody said it, but we all felt it. We turned the music down even lower, talked quieter. Felt ridiculous, but I didn't want. To give her ammunition, by 9 p.m., everyone started packing up. "You good?" Mike asked as he grabbed his keys. "Yeah, she's just... adjusting, probably." He didn't look convinced. After everyone left, I locked up the garage and turned off the lights. Glanced toward Patricia's house out of habit. The curtains in her front window were pulled back just enough. I could see her silhouette. She was standing there in the dark, watching, and she was holding something, a notebook, maybe dash writing. My chest went cold. She wasn't just watching, she was documenting. I went inside, locked the door, tried to tell myself I was overreacting, that it was one conversation, one complaint. It would blow over, but I couldn't shake the image of her standing. In that window, building a case against me before I'd even done anything wrong, the first HOA letter arrived 4 days later. Wednesday afternoon, thin white envelope with the Summit Pines HOA logo in the corner. I opened it, standing by my mailbox. Notice of violation, case number 2847, violation type, excessive noise, unauthorized gatherings, Alores. Saturday, November 18th, 6 p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. Description. Multiple complaints received regarding loud music, excessive gathering of individuals, and vehicles blocking street access. Per HOA bylaws, Section 4.7. Residents must maintain peaceful enjoyment of common areas and limit gatherings that create noise disturbances. Action required. Immediate cessation of violating activity. Failure to comply may result in fines up to $250 per occurrence. I read it twice. My jaw clenched so tight my teeth hurt. Excessive noise. We'd turned the music down to barely audible. Unauthorized gatherings. It was my garage, my property, parking infractions. My friends parked along the street, public parking, completely legal, never blocking driveways. I walked inside and called the HOA office. Got voicemail? Left a message asking for clarification. No one called back. Saturday came. Mike, Sean, and 2 others showed up. We kept everything quieter than usual. Music off completely, spoke in normal voices. Parked cars carefully, leaving. Extra space between vehicles. It felt ridiculous. It's like we were sneaking around in my own home. At 7:30, an HOA security patrol truck pulled up. White Ford with Summit Pines security on the side. A guy in his 50s got out, clipboard in hand. I walked over. "Can I help you? Got a call about a rowdy party at this address?" He didn't sound aggressive, just tired. "A party," I gestured, toward the garage. 6 guys sitting in folding chairs around a card table, one holding a spatula by the grill. No music. No yelling. Just quiet conversation. The security guard took in the scene, looked back at me. "You're kidding?" "Nope. Someone called this in as rowdy." He sighed, wrote something on his clipboard. "Yeah," neighbor reported loud music, shouting, quote, "out of control gathering." He looked at the garage again, shook his head. "This is the tamest thing I've seen all week. You're fine. Note there's no violation." Sean walked over after the truck left. "What was that about?" "Neighbor called security. Said we're out of control." Mike laughed from his chair. "Out of control?" I'm literally eating a hot dog, but it wasn't funny, because this was escalating. First the confrontation, then the HOA letter. How security called. For nothing. And I had a sinking feeling this was just the beginning. The next letter arrived 5 days later. Notice of continued violation, case number 2847, violation type, loitering, potential illegal activity description. Resident reports continued suspicious behavior at property, including unfamiliar individuals frequently entering and exiting. VEHICLES. Idling for extended periods. Impossible exchange of illicit materials. I read that line 3 times. Possible exchange of illicit materials. My chest went tight. My hands started shaking, not from fear, from rage so pure and hot I could barely think straight. She was accusing us of drug dealing. She didn't say it outright, but exchange of illicit materials wasn't subtle. This wasn't about noise anymore. This was her trying to paint us as criminals. And if the HOA believed it, if anyone believed it, my friends who are cops would have this on record. A file connecting them to a possible illegal activity. Could lose his job over this. Sean's sergeant position. Mike's detective work. All of it could be jeopardized by some neighbor's bullshit accusation that she couldn't even prove. I called the HOA office. This time someone answered. "This is about case 2847, I said, trying to keep my voice level. "I received a letter claiming illegal activity at my property. It's a serious accusation. What evidence do you have?" The woman on the phone sounded uncomfortable. "A resident has expressed concerns about suspicious behavior. We're required to investigate all complaints. Suspicious behavior. It's my friends coming over on weekends. We grill food and play cards. I understand, but when residents express concerns about safety, what safety issue? Have you actually witnessed anything illegal?" "No. But then why are you sending me letters accusing me of illegal activity based on zero evidence?" Was quiet. "I'll pass your concerns to the board president." She hung up. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that letter, hands trembling. This woman was trying to destroy my life, my friends' careers. And the HOA was letting her do it because of process. Jake came over that evening after his shift, still in uniform. I showed him the letter. He read it. Then read it again, started laughing. Not a funny laugh. The bitter kind you make when something's so absurd you can't process it. Suspicious? We're the least suspicious people on the planet. Half of us have security clearances, I know. Loitering? We're sitting in your garage on your property. He tossed the letter on the table. His expression shifted, not laughing anymore. You know what this could do, right? This gets attached to my name in any official capacity? I know. Internal Affairs sees a complainant and a bullshit HOA complaint linking me to possible illegal activity they have to investigate. Doesn't matter that it's your crazy neighbor. Doesn't matter that it's false. Goes in my file. My stomach dropped. I didn't think it's not your fault. But we need to shut this down. Fast. He leaned forward. Talk to her directly. Clear this up before it gets worse. I walked over to Patricia's house the next afternoon, knocked on her door, waited. No. Answer, knocked again. Go away. Her voice came from inside, loud, angry. I just want to talk, I said, keeping my voice calm. About the complaints. Maybe we can work something out. I've nothing to say to you, please. This is getting out of hand. We're not doing anything wrong. My friends are police officers. I've documented everything, she yelled. Through the door, the noise, the cars, the suspicious people. I know what you're doing. My jaw clenched. My fists balled at my sides. We're not doing anything. Just friends hanging out. I've called the HOA. I've called security. If it doesn't stop, I'll call the police. I call the police. On a garage full of cops. I stood there staring at her closed door, my whole body shaking with anger. She wasn't going to listen. She'd already decided what we were, and nothing I said would change her mind. I walked back to my house, hands trembling. Chest tight, the complaints kept coming. One every week. Strange people coming and going at all hours. We had one gathering, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Vehicles idling suspiciously in driveway. Mike had let his truck warm up for 3 minutes on a cold morning before work. Possible drug activity, unusual traffic patterns. Jake stopped by twice that week to watch basketball after his shift. Each letter more absurd than the last, each one painting us as criminals. The HOA sent a final notice. Fines would start with the next violation, $250 per incident. I called the board president directly, left 3 messages. Finally got a call back. His name was Tom. Sounded exhausted. Look, I've read your file, I get it, but my hands are tied. When a resident files complaints, we have to respond. It's in the bylaws. Even when the complaints are completely false, we can't determine that without evidence. I'm offering evidence. Come over. See for yourself. My neighbors across the street will vouch for me. I've lived here 8 years. Without a single complaint until she moved in. He sighed. I'll stop by this Saturday informally, just to assess the situation. Saturday came. Tom showed up at 7 p.m., walked into the garage. Saw Jake, Mike, Sean, and 2 others sitting around a poker table with a $5 pot. Saw the grill, the cooler with water and beer. The TV playing a football game on low volume. He looked around, took it all in, then looked at me. This is it. He shook his head slowly. I'll update the file. You're clearly not violating anything. He paused. But I can't stop her from filing complaints. And as long as she keeps filing, the board has to respond. That's the process. So what am I supposed to do? Just keep getting letters accusing me of drug dealing? He looked uncomfortable. Hope she gets tired of it, or moves. I stared at him. That's it? That's your advice? I'm sorry, my hands are tied. He left. I sat in the garage with my friends, cards in hand, feeling something I'd never felt in my own home, trapped and angry, and realizing that being right didn't matter if the system let one person weaponize it against you. 2 weeks passed. The HOA letters stopped coming after Tom's visit, but I could feel her watching. Every Saturday, every time a car pulled up, I'd glance over and see her curtains move, her shadow in the window. It was wearing me down. I'd lived in this house for 8 years without a care. I felt tense every time I opened the garage door, like I was doing something wrong just by existing. But I wasn't stopping. This was my house, my friends, my life. Saturday night. Mid-December. Cold enough that we kept the garage door halfway, down to hold and heat from a small space heater. Jake, Mike, Sean, and 3 other guys from the department. Burgers on the grill, poker game going, ESPN playing quietly on the TV. The pot on the table was maybe $40, mix of 5s and 1s. They weren't exactly high rollers. Mike was dealing. Sean had just folded. Jake was trying to bluff through a terrible hand. Normal, quiet, boring. Honestly then, I saw the lights red and blue flashing through the gap at the bottom of the garage door. Everyone stopped, cards frozen mid-deal. like halfway through a bite of his burger, is that Jake started 2 patrol cars. Parked in my driveway, lights on, doors opening. Jake stood up slowly, looked at Mike. Mike looked at Sean. All 3 had the same expression. Confusion mixed with recognition. They knew what those lights meant. I walked to the garage door, hit the button. It rolled up. 4 officers stood in my driveway, hands near their belts. It's cautious, not aggressive, but alert. The way cops look when they're responding to something potentially serious. The lead officer was maybe 30. Crew cut, square jaw, looked at the garage. At the 6 men sitting around a card table, his eyes stopped on Jake. His expression shifted. Jake. Jake stepped forward. Martinez. What's going on? Officer Martinez relaxed slightly, looked back at his partner, then at me. We got a 911 call, a report of drug dealing and possible weapons at this address. The words hit like a fist to the chest. My vision narrowed. My hands went cold. Drug dealing. Weapons. She'd called 911, not the HOA, not security. Emergency services. She'd told dispatchers there was a crime happening at my house. Mike stood up. I'm Detective Mike Torres. Robbery Division. He rattled off his badge number from memory. What exactly did the caller say? Martinez looked at him, then at Sean. Recognition spreading across his face. Caller reported large group of men, exchange of money, suspicious packages, possible firearms. Sean stood up slowly, 6'3", 15 years on the force, built like someone who didn't take shit from anyone. Sergeant Sean Donnelly. And those suspicious packages are grocery bags with hamburger buns. He pointed at the table. The exchange of money is a poker game. $40 pot. And yeah, half of us are armed because we're off-duty officers and we carry concealed. Legally. The second officer, younger, looked fresh out of the academies, stared at the scene. You could see him putting it together. The suspected drug dealers were cops. His face went bright red. He looked at Martinez like he wanted to disappear. Martinez closed his eyes, let out a long breath. You've got to be kidding me. Jake walked over to him, kept his voice low, calm, professional. Who called? It in neighbor. Female. Called from next door. He nodded toward Patricia's house. I looked, of course. Patricia stood in her front window. Curtains pulled back. Phone still in her hand. Watching the scene she'd orchestrated, our eyes met for a split second. She didn't move, didn't duck away, just stood there, watching. My entire body felt like it was vibrating. Not fear, pure, white-hot rage. She'd called 911, lied to emergency dispatchers, sent armed officers to my house on a fake report because she didn't like my friends. Martinez looked at me. Sir, I apologize. I have to respond to all 911 calls. Protocol. I understand, I said. My voice came out tight, controlled. But that call was a lie. There's no drug dealing, no weapons cache, nothing. I can see that. He pulled out a notepad, started writing, speaking as he wrote. No illegal activity observed. Homeowner and guests cooperative. Social gathering of off-duty law enforcement personnel. That last part, he said it deliberately, loud enough that anyone listening would hear, loud enough for Patricia to hear through her open window. Sean's jaw was clenched. He looked at Martinez. This is filing a false police report. If she does it again, we press charges. Martinez nodded. I'll note that in the report. If we get another unfounded call from this address, we'll forward it to the DA for review. They stayed another 5 minutes, took statements, confirmed everyone's law enforcement credentials, then left. The garage went quiet after they drove off. Nobody touched their cards. Nobody touched their food. Mike spoke first. She called 911, told them we were dealing drugs. Jake was staring at the driveway. His hands were balled into fists. Do you know what that call could have done? If it had been a different crew responding? If they'd come in hot and someone had made the wrong move? I hadn't thought about that, but Jake was right. 911 calls for drugs and weapons are higher risk responses. Officers come in expecting danger, ready for violence. One wrong move. One misunderstanding. Someone reaching for their wallet at the wrong time. Things could have gone very, very badly. Sean pulled out his phone, started typing, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. I'm filing a formal complaint with dispatch. She called in false information. That's a crime. Will they actually do anything? I asked. He looked up at me. His expression was cold, hard. She weaponized emergency services, wasted department resources, lied to dispatchers, and endangered both civilians and officers by sending armed response to a fake crime. He went back to typing. Yeah, they'll do something. I sat down in one of the folding chairs. My hands were shaking. The anger was still there, burning hot in my chest, but now there was something else underneath it. Fear, not of her, but of what she was willing to do. This wasn't HOA complaints anymore. This wasn't noise violations or parking disputes. She'd escalated to criminal accusations, to bringing armed police to my door based on complete lies. Mike sat down next to me. You okay? No, I said. Honest. Raw. She could have gotten someone hurt. She could have gotten you guys hurt. But she didn't, because we kept our heads. Because Martinez and his crew did their jobs right, and because we're lucky Jake knows half the department. Jake was still standing, still staring toward Patricia's house. Next time she calls, and there will be a next time she's getting charged. I don't care if she's scared. I don't care what her excuse is. You don't lie to 911 ever. The gathering ended early that night. Nobody felt like playing cards anymore. Guys packed up quietly, said their goodbyes. Left, I stood in my garage alone after everyone was gone, staring at the poker table, the half-eaten burgers. The cards scattered across the felt. This was supposed to be simple. Friends, food, poker now. It was police reports and false accusations, and the very real possibility that the next 911 call could end differently. I locked up the garage, went inside. Didn't sleep much that night, just kept replaying it. The lights, the officers' hands near their weapons. The look on Jake's face when he realized what she'd done. And I kept thinking, she's not going to stop, which meant I couldn't just wait around for the next attack. I needed to do something. Mike called me.
Monday morning, early 7 a.m., I was barely
awake. I pulled the 911 records for your address, he said. There's no greeting. Straight to business. I sat up in bed. You can do that? It's public information. Anyone can request it. I just know how to do it faster. He paused. You're not going to. Like what I found? My stomach dropped. How bad? She's called 911 on your address 4 times in the last 6 weeks. 4 times. 6 weeks I felt my chest tighten. What did she report, I asked? First call, suspected drug activity. Second, domestic disturbance, said she heard yelling and feared someone was being hurt. Third, drug activity again. Claimed she saw hand-to-hand transactions. Fourth was Saturday night drugs and weapons. I closed my eyes, pressed my palm against my forehead. For false 911 calls, each one a lie, each one. Sending armed officers to my door. The domestic disturbance one, I said slowly. When was that? November 28th, around 8 p.m. Pulled up my calendar. November 28th, Thursday. I'd been at work late that night. Didn't get home until almost 10? I wasn't even home, I said. My voice came out flat, cold. There was no disturbance because no one was there. I know. The responding officers noted that in their report. No answer at the door. No sounds of distress. They cleared it as unfounded. My hands balled into fists. She hadn't just exaggerated or misunderstood something she saw. She'd completely fabricated a domestic violence incident at a house where nobody was home. This wasn't paranoia. This was malicious. Mike, what happens now? Repeated false reports are a crime. Filing a false police report is a misdemeanor. Do it multiple times, especially with emergency services. The DA can press charges. He paused. And they should. She's wasting resources. She sent armed response to a non-existent gunfight. That's not just annoying. It's dangerous. Can we prove it's her? Every call came from her phone number. Dispatch logs show it. She's not even trying. To hide it, I sat on the edge of my bed trying to process this. For calls, for lies. All documented, all traceable. What do? I asked. Document everything on your end. Security cameras if you don't have them. Logs of when people come over. Witness statements from everyone at your gatherings. A case. Next time she calls because she will file formal charges. Jake came over that afternoon, brought Sean with him. Both off duty, but neither looked relaxed. We need to be smart about this, Jake said. We were standing in my garage, door closed, voices low. She's escalating. Next call could be worse. Worse how? I asked. Sean crossed his arms. Still angry about Saturday, she called in weapons. That's a priority response. Officers come in, expecting danger. Weapons drawn. High alert. If someone had made a sudden move, if someone had been holding something that looked like a weapon, ... double quotes, he didn't finish, didn't need to. My throat went dry. You think someone could have been shot? I think we got lucky. I think the responding officers kept their heads. But yeah, it could have gone bad. He looked at me. That's why we're not letting this go. She endangered us. You, the officers who responded. This stops now. Jake pulled out his phone. You need cameras, full coverage. Driveway, garage, front door. Time-stamped footage. So when she claims there's a drug deal or a shootout, we have proof there wasn't. I nodded. I'll order them today. Ordered cameras that night. 4 of them. Had a security company install them Friday afternoon, 1 covering the driveway, 1 on the garage, 1 on the front door, 1 facing the street. All recording 24/7, all backed up to cloud storage. The installer asked if I'd had a break-in. I almost laughed. Something like that. It felt surreal. Installing surveillance on my own house to prove I wasn't committing crimes. But I didn't have a choice. 2 weeks passed. Quiet. No HOA letters. No security calls. No police. I wanted to believe it was over. That maybe the officer's warning had gotten through to her. But I couldn't shake the feeling I was just waiting. For the next attack? Then came the next Saturday. Low-key night. It's just Jake and Sean. We weren't even having a full gathering. Just the 3 of us watching the playoff game. Nachos, beer, garage. A door closed because it was freezing outside. 7:30 p.m. Still first quarter. I heard the sirens before. I saw the lights. Multiple sirens. Close. Getting closer. Jake stood up. Walked to the window. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Your patrol cars? Flying down the street, lights and sirens blaring. They skidded to a stop in front of my house. 8 officers. Doors opening fast. Hands on weapons. My heart was pounding. So hard I couldn't breathe. This wasn't like last time. This was aggressive. Urgent. Military-level response. I glanced toward the street. Neighbors were coming out of their houses. Standing on porches, watching 8 police cars with lights, blazing. This looked like a raid. Jake opened the front door slowly, hands visible, calm. Officers, what's going on? The lead officer, different crew than last time, had his hand on his holstered weapon. Not drawn, but ready. We got a 911 call. Reports of gang activity and gunshots fired at this address. Gang activity. Gunshots. I stepped into the doorway next to Jake. Hands up slightly, non-threatening. There's no gang. There's no gunshots. It's just us watching football. The officer's eyes narrowed. Then he looked at Jake. Really looked. Saw the police. Academy t-shirt Jake was wearing. The one from his graduation. You a cop? The officer asked. Patrol, West District. Jake Morrison. His badge 4471. The officer's posture changed. Relaxed slightly. He looked past us into the house. Saw Sean standing in the hallway wearing a department softball league shirt. How many people inside? The officer asked. 3 total, Sean said. Me, him, and the homeowner. all current law enforcement. The lead officer's expression shifted from alert to confused to annoyed. He lowered his hand from his weapon, turned to his partner. Check the perimeter. 2. Officers walked around the house, came back 2 minutes later. No signs of disturbance, no gunshots, no evidence of gang activity. The lead officer looked at me. Who called this in? Neighbor next door, I said. She's called for other times in 2 months. All false reports. His jaw tightened. She's done this before? Every time we have people over, she claims drugs, weapons, violence. None of it's true. There's never been anything. He turned toward Patricia's house, walked up to her door, knocked hard. Police. Opened the door. Nothing. He knocked again, louder. Ma'am, we need to speak with you about the 911 call you made. Her voice came through the door, shrill, defensive. I heard gunshots, multiple shots. They're gang members. Ma'am, they're police officers, off duty, watching a football game. Silence. The officer knocked again. Filing false police reports is a crime. If you continue making unfounded 911 calls, you will be charged. I know what I heard. There were no gunshots. We've cleared the property. There's no evidence of any crime. There's no weapons discharged, nothing. You're covering for them. They're dangerous. You need to arrest them. The officer stepped back from the door, shook his head, pulled out his radio, and called something in. Then he walked back to me. She's not coming out. But this call is going in the report as unfounded and malicious. And I'm personally flagging her number with dispatch. If she calls again, we'll have immediate grounds for criminal charges. Jake stepped forward. I want to press charges now. She's called 5 times. She claimed gunshots. He responded with 8 officers thinking there was an active shooter. That's not a misunderstanding. It's criminal. The officer nodded. I'll forward the report to my sergeant tonight. They'll send it to the DA. Looked at me. You should file a formal complaint too. Civilian and law enforcement complaints together carry more weight. After they left, the 3 of us sat in the garage. Games still playing on TV? Nachos still on the table. None of us eating. I looked out at the street. Neighbors were still outside, talking, looking at my house. 8 police cars. Lights and sirens. They didn't know it was a false call. They just knew the cops showed up in force. My reputation was being destroyed one false call at a time. Sean spoke first. She's not stopping. No, Jake said. She's not. I looked at both of them. So what do we do? Sean's expression was cold. Determined, we file criminal charges, get a restraining order, and we make sure this ends before someone actually gets hurt. Legally, Jake added, and permanently. Sean filed the formal complaint Monday morning, walked into the station before his shift, and submitted a written statement to the watch commander. Jake did the same. Mike filed from the detective division. It's 3 sworn officers, all documenting the same pattern. Repeated false 911 calls, wasted. Resources, endangered personnel. The department opened an investigation. Standard procedure when officers file complaints about civilian conduct. Took them 3 days to compile everything. Every 911 call, every dispatch log, every responding officer's report. 5 calls, 6 weeks. All false. All documented the case. Went to the district attorney's office Thursday. Mike called me that afternoon. DA's reviewing it. They're taking it seriously. 5 false emergency calls is prosecutable, especially the gunshot one. That's not a noise complaint. That's crying wolf about an active threat. How long until they decide, I asked. Could be a week, could be 2. But with this much documentation, they'll file. Friday morning, 1 week. Later charges were filed. State versus Patricia Monroe, filing false police reports, 5 counts misdemeanor charges. Each count carried up to 6 months in jail and fines up to $1,000. Combined, she was looking at potential jail time and $5,000 in fines, plus court costs, plus a criminal record. When Mike sent me the charging documents, I just sat there staring at my phone. Relief washed over me so intensely my hands started shaking. After months of being called a criminal, she was the one facing charges. She received the summons Tuesday. I know because that's when the next HOA letter arrived. Not a violation notice this time. A meeting notice. Emergency board meeting resident complaint Wednesday. 7 p.m. I called the HOA office. What's this about? The woman on the phone sounded uncomfortable. Ms. Monroe filed a formal complaint. She's requesting a hearing. You're named in the complaint, so you're invited to attend and respond. What's she complaining about? Harassment. She claims you've been using police surveillance to intimidate her. I almost laughed. Almost police surveillance. I'd installed cameras to defend myself from her false accusations, and now she was claiming I was surveilling her. I'll be there. I called Jake, then Mike, then Sean. Told them about the meeting. All three said they'd come. Off duty. Civilian clothes, Sean said. We're not representing the department. We're there as your friends, and as the people she's been lying about. Wednesday came. I arrived at the HOA Community Center at 6:45. The meeting room was small, maybe 30 chairs arranged in rows. Several board members were setting up. Tom, the board president, looked exhausted. This is a mess, he said quietly. Just so you know, the board doesn't support her. We have to give her a hearing. It's in the bylaws. I understand. A few other residents filtered in. Curious, probably. Word had gotten around about all the police activity. Jake, Mike, and Sean arrived at 6:50, all three in jeans and t-shirts. You wouldn't know they were cops unless you knew what to look for. The way they moved, the way they scanned the room. The slight bulge under Jake's jacket where his concealed carry sat. Patricia arrived at exactly 7 p.m., dressed like she was going to court. Blazer, slacks, hair done. She carried a 3-ring binder thick with papers. She saw me, saw the guy sitting next to me. Her face went tight. She sat on the opposite side of the room, back rigid. Tom called the meeting to order. We're here to address a formal complaint filed by Patricia Monroe regarding alleged harassment by a fellow resident. Ms. Monroe, you have the floor. She stood, opened the binder, started reading in a practiced voice. For the past 3 months, I have been subjected to ongoing harassment by my neighbor. He hosts frequent gatherings of suspicious individuals. These gatherings involve excessive noise, loitering, and what I believe to be illegal activity. When I reported my legitimate safety concerns to authorities, he retaliated by installing surveillance cameras aimed directly at my property. He has weaponized law enforcement, bringing police to the neighborhood repeatedly, creating a hostile and unsafe environment for everyone. She looked up, looked directly at me. Why would police be at his house constantly unless he's involved in something criminal? My jaw clenched. She was still lying. Even facing criminal charges, she was doubling down. Tom looked at me. Dude, want to respond? I stood, kept my voice calm, level. Everything she just said is a lie. I pulled out my phone. Opened the folder Mike had sent me. Patricia has called 911 on my address 5 times in 6 weeks. Here are the dispatch records. Public information. I handed copies to Tom and the board members. They started reading. First call, drug activity. False officers responded. Found nothing. Second call, domestic disturbance. I wasn't even home that night. Officers knocked on an empty house. Third call, drug activity again. False. Fourth call, drugs and weapons. Officers found us playing poker. Fifth call, gang members and gunshots. 8 officers responded to what she claimed was an active shooter. There were no gunshots, no gang, no crime. I let that sink in. Watched the board members' faces shift from curiosity to shock. The police have been at my house constantly because she keeps calling 911 and lying. The district attorney has now filed criminal charges against her for filing false police reports. 5 misdemeanor counts. She's facing possible jail time and $5,000 in fines. The room went silent. You could hear people breathing. Patricia's face went red. Her voice rose. I was protecting the neighborhood as people looked. Dangerous. They were loitering, exchanging things. The silence got heavier. Tom looked at the 3 of them, confused. Your art. What? Jake stood slowly, pulled pulled his badge from his pocket, held it up. Patrol officer, West District. 10 years on the force. Mike stood, showed his detective shield. Detective. Robbery, 6'3". Imposing. Sergeant, 15 years? One board member's mouth fell open. Another leaned back in her chair like she'd been pushed. Tom just stared. Patricia's face had gone from red to white. I didn't know they were you. Didn't ask, Mike said. His voice was cold, flat. You didn't knock on his door. You didn't introduce yourself. You just called 911 and lied. I didn't lie. I thought I heard you told dispatch you heard gunshots, Sean cut in. Did you hear gunshots? She hesitated. I heard something that sounded, did you hear gunshots? Sounded like it could have been yes or no. Silence. Then, quietly, no. You told them you saw gang members? Did you see gang members? They looked suspicious. Did you see gang members? No. What? You called 911 5 times. You reported drugs, weapons, domestic violence, and an active shooter. All of it false. Do you understand what you did? You wasted hundreds of hours of police time. You sent armed officers into situations where they thought lives were at risk. You endangered them. You endangered us. And you did it because you didn't like your neighbor having friends over. Her hands were shaking. The binder slipped slightly. She looked at Tom, at the other board members. Desperate now. I was scared. I didn't know who they were. He looked. Tom closed the folder in front of him, took off his glasses. His eyes like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. It's Monroe. You filed multiple false emergency reports. It's not a neighborhood dispute. It's a crime. The board has no authority over criminal matters, but we do have authority over HOA conduct. He looked at me. All previous violations issued to this address are hereby dismissed and permanently expunged from HOA records. You have a clean file. Relief. Hit me so hard I almost sat down. Clean file. Officially cleared. Tom looked back at Patricia. You are being issued a formal warning for abuse of the HOA complaint system and harassment of a fellow resident. Any further complaints you file will be independently verified before any action is taken. And if we find you filed additional false reports to us or to police, you will face fines of up to $500 per incident and possible removal from the community. Patricia stood abruptly, grabbed her binder. Voice was shrill. This is insane. You're taking his side? He's the problem. We're taking the side of documented evidence, Tom said firmly. You're facing criminal charges. The district attorney doesn't file charges without substantial cause. She looked around the room. At me. At the 3 cops. At the board members staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to pity. At the handful of residents who were witnessing her public humiliation. Her face crumpled, then hardened. She turned and walked out. Slammed the door behind her so hard the frame rattled. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then whispers started. Board members murmuring to each other. Residents processing what they'd just witnessed. Tom looked at me. His expression was tired, apologetic. I'm sorry. We should have questioned her complaints sooner. When someone calls 911 multiple times, you assume there must be something real. I get it, I said. And I did. The board wasn't the enemy. They'd been manipulated like everyone else. Is she really facing jail time? One of the board members asked. Possibly, Sean said. Depends on the judge and her prior record. But filing false emergency reports is serious. She'll likely get probation, community service, and fines at minimum. Could be jail time if the judge wants to send a message. Jake added, court dates in 3 weeks. We'll all be there to testify. We left the meeting 20 minutes later, walked out into the parking lot together. The cold night air felt good after the stuffy meeting room. Jake looked at me. You okay? Yeah, I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it. I'm good. Mike smiled slightly. She really thought cameras on your property were surveillance of her. That's some next-level delusion. Sean shook his head. She pleaded out, no way her lawyer lets this go to trial. Not with 5 documented false calls and 3 cops willing to testify. So it's over? I asked. Legally? Almost. Court will finalize it. Jake clapped me on the shoulder. But yeah, you won. I stood there in the parking lot with 3 friends who'd had my back through all of this, who'd filed complaints, who'd shown up tonight, who'd faced down the woman who'd tried to paint them as criminals. The truth had finally caught up to the lies, and it felt good. But as I drove home that night, couldn't shake one thought. Patricia had lost tonight. Publicly, humiliatingly, she was facing criminal charges, HOA sanctions, her reputation destroyed. What does someone like that do when they've got nothing left to lose? The court date was set for 6 weeks out, January 14th. Municipal Court. Judge Hendricks presiding. I got a witness summons 2 weeks before the trial. The prosecutor, a woman named Angela Reyes, called me the same day. I want you there, she said. You're the victim. The officers will testify about the false calls, but I need you to establish context. Show the court this was targeted harassment, not a misunderstanding. What do I need to bring? Everything. Timeline of gatherings. Camera footage, HOA letters, anything that shows a pattern. Spent the next week organizing everything into a binder. Dates, times, who was present, what we were doing. Photos from the security cameras showing quiet gatherings. Copies of the HOA violations Patricia had filed. The police reports from all 5 911 calls. Jake, Mike, and Sean were all subpoenaed as witnesses. So were 3 of the responding officers who'd come to my house on different calls. The trial was scheduled for 9 a.m. I arrived at 8:30. The courthouse was old, built in the 70s, with that institutional smell of floor wax and stale coffee. Jake met me in the hallway. He was in full uniform. So were Sean and the other officers testifying. Protocol for court appearances. Nervous? Jake asked. Yeah, don't be. We've got this. Patricia arrived at 8:50 with her lawyer. A public defender, young guy who looked barely out of law school. He was carrying a thin folder. She was wearing the same blazer she'd worn to the HOA meeting. Her face was drawn, tired. She didn't look at me when she walked past. We were called into the courtroom at 9. Judge Hendricks was in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She had the look of someone who'd seen every excuse and heard every lie. State versus Patricia Monroe, the bailiff announced. 5 counts of filing. False police reports. Angela Reyes stood. The state is ready, Your Honor. Patricia's lawyer stood. Defense is ready. The judge nodded. Proceed. Angela laid it out methodically. Pulled up dispatch records on a screen visible to the whole courtroom. 5 911 calls, all from Patricia's phone number, all reporting my address. Call 1. November 10th, 7:15 p.m. Caller reports suspected drug dealing. Officers respond. Find homeowner and friends having a barbecue. No illegal activity. She moved to the next one. Call 2. November 28th, 8 p.m. Caller reports domestic disturbance, claims to hear yelling and sounds of violence. Officers respond. Homeowner not present. Residence empty. No disturbance. She kept going. Each call displayed on the screen with timestamps, dispatch notes, and responding officers' reports. All marked unfounded. Then she got to the 5th call. December 16th, 7:30 p.m. Caller reports gunshots and gang activity. This is classified as a Priority 1 emergency. 4 patrol units respond with 8 officers. Higher risk response protocol. Officers arrive weapons drawn, prepared for active shooter scenario. She paused. Let that sink in. Officers find 2 off duty. Police officers watching a football game. A few people in the gallery, mostly other defendants waiting for their cases, murmured. One guy actually laughed before catching himself. Angela called her first witness. Officer Martinez, the one who'd responded to the gunshot call. He took the stand. Sworn in, answered questions in that flat professional tone cops use in court. When you received the call, what was your understanding of the situation? Angela asked. Dispatch reported gunshots fired and possible gang activity. That's a priority. Call, we respond, code 3 lights and sirens. High alert. What did you find when you arrived? 2 adult males inside the residence, both later identified as off-duty law enforcement. They were watching television, eating nachos. No weapons. Visible. No signs of disturbance. Did you find any evidence of gunshots? No, ma'am. No shell casings. No bullet holes. No smell of gunpowder. No firearms visible or reported by the occupants. In your professional opinion, was there any legitimate reason for that 911 call? No, ma'am. The call was unfounded. Angela called 3 more officers. All told the same story. Responded to emergency calls on nothing. Wasted time and resources on false reports. Then she called Sean. He took the stand in full sergeant's uniform. Gave his name, badge number, years of service. Sergeant Donnelly, were you present at the defendant's neighbor's home on December 16th when police responded to the gunshot call? Yes, ma'am. What were you doing? I was watching a playoff game with 2 friends, eating nachos. Were there any gunshots? No, ma'am. Any gang members? No, ma'am. Just me and Officer Morrison, both off duty. How did you feel when for patrol? Units arrived with weapons drawn? Sean's jaw tightened, concerned. That's a higher risk response. Officers are amped up, expecting danger. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and someone could have been hurt or killed. Angela nodded, and in your professional opinion, what's the risk of repeated false emergency calls? It endangers everyone. Officers, civilians, the person calling, and it wastes critical resources. While we're responding to a fake emergency, there might be a real one happening somewhere else. She turned to the judge. Your Honor, the city has calculated the cost of responding to these 5 false calls: personnel time, vehicle deployment, dispatch resources. The total is approximately $3,400. The judge made a note. Patricia's lawyer stood for cross-examination. He looked nervous. Sergeant, isn't it possible my client genuinely believed she heard gunshots? Anything's possible, Sean said. But she also claimed to see gang members, drug deals, weapons, domestic violence. 5 separate incidents. False. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. The lawyer sat down, didn't ask another question. Angela called me last. I took the stand, sworn in, hands sweating, but voice steady. Can you describe your relationship with the defendant? Angela asked. She's my neighbor. Moved in 3 months ago. Did you ever threaten her? No. Harass her? No. I tried to speak with her twice. Both times she refused to have a conversation. What were you doing during these incidents, she reported? Hosting small gatherings? Friends coming over to watch sports, play cards, have dinner? Usually 4 to 6 people? Always done by 10 p.m.? Angela showed photos from my security cameras. Timestamps visible. Guys sitting in lawn chairs. Grilling food. Playing poker. Nothing remotely criminal. Does this look like gang activity to you? She asked the courtroom. No one answered. Then it was Patricia's turn. Her lawyer put her on the stand. She looked smaller up there. Scared. Ms. Monroe, why did you call 911? He asked. I felt threatened. There were always strange men at his house. I didn't know who they were, I thought. I thought I was protecting the neighborhood. Angela stood for cross-examination. No warmth in her voice now. Shh. Ms. Monroe, you testified you felt threatened. Did you ever ask your neighbor who these people were? No, but did you see any drugs? But I suspected. Did you see any weapons? No. Did you hear gunshots? Patricia hesitated. I thought I did. You thought you did? She didn't actually hear gunshots, did you? Sounded like yes or no. Did you hear gunshots? No. Angela stepped closer. You called 911 5 times. You reported drugs, violence, weapons, and an active shooter. None of it was true. Why? Patricia's voice cracked. I just wanted them to stop. The gatherings, the noise. I wanted my neighborhood to be quiet. Angela turned to the judge. Your Honor, the defendant admits she filed false reports to stop social gatherings she didn't like. That's not protecting a neighborhood. That's abusing emergency services. The judge looked at Patricia. Her expression was hard, cold. Ms. Monroe. Emergency services exist to protect people in real danger. You used them as your personal complaint department. You wasted thousands of dollars, endangered officers. And you did it repeatedly, knowing your claims were false. Patricia started to speak. The judge held up her hand. Guilty, all 5 counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Same courtroom, same judge. 60 days in county jail, suspended pending. Completion of probation. 2 years probation. 200 hours community service. $2,500 in fines. Restitution to the city for response costs. $3,400. Patricia's face crumbled. The judge wasn't done. You are prohibited from calling 911 except in cases of actual emergency. Violation of this order will result in immediate incarceration. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia whispered. Emergency services are not your weapon. They're not your complaint line. They exist to save lives. Remember that. Court adjourned. I walked out into the hallway. Jake, Mike, and Sean were waiting. It's over, Jake said, and it was. Finally, completely over. Patricia listed her house 3 weeks after sentencing. I was getting my mail when I saw the realtor hammering the for sale sign into her front lawn. Big red letters. Professional. Agency from downtown. I stood there holding a stack of bills, staring at that sign, waiting to feel something. Satisfaction. Maybe victory? But what hit me was something quieter. Relief. The kind that comes when a threat you've been living with finally, permanently goes away. She was gone within a month. Sold below market. I heard from Tom later. She dropped the price twice, just to close fast. Didn't even stick around for the final walkthrough. Had everything handled remotely and moved 2 states over before the deal finalized. The house sat empty for a few weeks. Every time I looked at it, I felt the weight lift a little more. Then a moving truck showed up on a Saturday morning in late February. I watched from my driveway as a young couple got out of a minivan, 2 kids, maybe 5 and 7, already running. Around the front yard, a husband looked mid-30s, wearing a college hoodie. The wife was directing movers with calm, organized energy. I walked over, extended my hand. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm next door. The husband shook it, smiled. Thanks, I'm David. This is my wife, Sarah. If you need anything, let me know, I said, then took a breath. And fair warning, I have friends over most Saturdays. We hang out in the garage, watch sports, grill food, keep it quiet, but if it ever bothers you, just say something, please. David laughed. Honestly, that sounds great. We're coming from an apartment where the walls were paper thin. This'll be nice. Sarah walked over. The realtor kept stressing how quiet this street is. No drama, very peaceful. We thought it was. Weird how much he emphasized it. I smiled slightly. There's a reason for that. Previous owner had issues with my gatherings. It escalated pretty badly. She's gone now. Issues. David asked. Long story? I'll tell you sometime. 2 weeks later, I invited them over on a Saturday. Low-key just Jake, Mike, Sean, and one other guy. Told David and Sarah the whole story over burgers. Sarah's eyes went wide. She called 911 5 times. 4 friends hanging out? Yep. Claimed we were drug dealers, gang members. Said she heard gunshots that never happened. David looked at Jake. And you're a cop? Jake held up his badge. 10 years. David started laughing. She called the cops. On cops. Off-duty cops. Playing poker, Mike added. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard, David said, still laughing. Their kids loved the garage. Their son Ethan was obsessed with police cars. Sean let him sit in his truck and look at the scanner he kept for work. The kid's face lit up, but I kept it short. Didn't let them stay too long. Didn't want David and Sarah to feel obligated. Just wanted them to know this was normal. This was safe. And if they ever had concerns, they could just talk to me like adults. They did, and it was fine. It's the way it should have been from the start. One Saturday in April, Jake brought a rookie from his squad, fresh out of the academy. Maybe 23. Buzzed hair, nervous energy, We were setting up chairs when the rookie looked around. "Wait, is this the house?" he asked. Jake grinned. "Yep, the one they talk about in training? The very same." The rookie looked at me. "They use your case in the de-escalation module now. Instructor talks about verifying complaints before assuming guilt." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah. 5 false 911 calls, all from one neighbor, and the suspects were off-duty cops. They use it as a don't assume, verify first example." Sean laughed. "Your nightmare's helping train the next generation." I didn't know what to say to that. Something good had come out of it. Maybe it would help someone else avoid what I went through. "Glad it's useful," I said as spring turned to summer. Things settled. Tom, the HOA president, stopped by one evening. In June, knocked on my door, looked uncomfortable. I wanted to check in, make sure everything's okay. "It is," I said. He nodded, hesitated. I should have questioned her complaints sooner. Should have verified before sending those violation letters. "I'm sorry," I looked at him. Tom wasn't a bad guy. He'd been manipulated like everyone else. But he'd also been part of the system that let it happen. "Just make sure it doesn't happen to someone else," I said. "We already changed policy. Alleging criminal activity gets independently verified before the board acts." "Good." He left. I stood on my porch looking at the quiet street. This was what Patricia had wanted. Peace. Quiet. No disruptions. She just destroyed her own life, trying to force it. Saturday night, late July, garage door open, grill going. Jake, Mike, Sean, 2 others. Game on TV. A patrol car rolled by slowly. The officer inside, Martinez, the one who'd responded to the fake gunshot call, looked over, saw us, raised his hand in a wave. Jake waved back. The car kept going. Mike dealt the next hand. "You ever think about what would have happened if we weren't cops? If it was just you and your regular friends?" I had a lot. "Honestly, I don't know if I would have won," I said. "Probably would have spent everything I had on lawyers, maybe lost anyway, or just given up because it was easier." "Most people would have stopped having friends over," Sean said. "It's easier than fighting the HOA, the police calls, the stress." Jake looked at me. "But you didn't. Kept doing what you'd always done. Didn't let her control your life." He was right. Never escalated, never retaliated, just kept living normally. When the truth finally came out, it came with documentation. Witnesses, and 3 cops willing to testify. I'd gotten lucky. Lucky my friends were cops. Lucky the responding officers did their jobs right. Lucky the DA took it seriously, but I'd also stood my ground when it mattered. I looked around the garage at my friends. At this simple, quiet life I'd built. "You know," Jake said, raising his beer, "to not giving in when someone tries to make you the villain." "The clinked bottles," Sean added, "and to having friends who actually show up." The game continued. The grill sizzled. The TV hummed in the background, and for the first time in months, sitting in my garage surrounded by people who'd stood by me through all of it, I felt something I hadn't felt since before Patricia moved. In peace, not the forced, controlled silence she'd demanded, just peace. Real, earned, and mine.